Jen Psaki completely breaking down when asked her thoughts on Florida's parental rights and education bill.
I have to be careful about politics because of the Hatch Act police that are waiting outside in the bushes somewhere. I'm like going to get emotional about this issue because it's horrible. But you know, it's like kids who are bullied, and like all these leaders are taking steps to hurt them and hurt their lives.
Joe Concha joins us live with his take. Joe, based upon that reaction, isn't it more likely than not that she never read that law in the first place?
Probably not, because, look, Todd, Carly, I don't know if that was performance art or she genuinely feels that way, but I do know that Jen Psaki is on quite the media tour lately, isn't she? It's as if she's almost trying to promote herself for an upcoming job she has across the street from you guys there over at 30 Rock and NBC and MSNBC. And she's lying again, by the way, about the so-called don't say gay bill in this situation, because the bill doesn't mention the word gay once. It's a bill that says you can't teach sex or sexual orientation or gender identity to those between the ages of kindergarten and third grade. And Jen has kids roughly around the same age as my kids. I have a son that's a kindergartner. I have a daughter that's in second grade. And I'd love to hear her explain why she thinks it's okay to teach kids that age that stuff. Either way, she should have retired weeks ago. This is a clear conflict of interest of her being press secretary and also now promoting herself as a future host, because why else would she be going on all these podcasts if this isn't to make it all about Jen Psaki?
Yeah, she mentioned the Hatch Act, which is something that bars federal employees from talking about partisan politics. So she obviously knows that she's clearly in gray territory there. But I do think that her tears were genuine. But I felt bad for her, because she said that in another part of this podcast that we didn't play, she said that teachers can't talk to kids if they bring up that their parents have two moms or two dads. And Joe, like you said, that's not what this law is about. So she has a fundamental misunderstanding of what this Florida bill actually does.
Well, completely. And by the way, you know, as a parent, again, if my kid should be having that conversation with me, not with teachers. And I'm sure some teachers would be very uncomfortable having that conversation. Either way, it should be noted that Jen Psaki today in Washington, D.C. is a featured speaker at an event along with Kelly O'Donnell. Who's Kelly O'Donnell? She is a White House correspondent for NBC News. Where's Jen Psaki going to be working in a couple of weeks? NBC News. And now they'll be doing a panel event together. Again, does anybody on the White House press corps, does anybody have a problem with this? As part of the White House Correspondents Association, no statements, nothing. This is all A-OK. It's ridiculous, Carly.
Yeah, it's the same with they make fun of Peter Doocy. No problem with that from the White House press corps.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Meantime, a liberal New York Times reporter fretting over the abrupt end of the travel mask mandate, tweeting, quote, "I can't stop thinking about people who may have chosen to book and board this flight based on a personal risk assessment that involved everyone being masked. And then mid-flight, when it was physically impossible to leave, that element of the risk assessment was upended." That is from Maggie Astor. There were a lot more like this. Shouldn't all these journalists be, quote, following the science, which actually says the filters on a plane make planes the safest place to be during this pandemic?
Yeah, and if you're wearing an N95 mask correctly, then you should be protected. If you're vaccinated, you should be protected. But if we're following this along correctly, this reporter had zero issue with Democratic lawmakers who were caught breaking their own mask rules, whether that's President Biden, Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Muriel Bowser, Lori Lightfoot, every single person who attended the Super Bowl. We didn't see any tweets from her then, did we? And oh, by the way, we're supposed to also assume that COVID stops when people take off their masks when eating or drinking during a flight. Right. This is a person who believes that we should be perpetually masked even after COVID becomes an endemic, Carly, Todd.
Yeah, I think that's part of a person's risk assessment, that people are going to take off masks while eating. But we digress, don't we, Todd?
Yes. And not impossible to leave the plane if you had a parachute. Joe Concha, thank you, sir.
Great point.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.